Hi everybody, this is Mark. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do an analysis, review, retrospective of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Now, I know what you're all thinking. You're all thinking, hey Mark, you're really late to the Rich Dad, Poor Dad party. Yes, that's true, but I really need to get this off my chest, so I'm going to do it anyway. Second, let's not call it a party, let's call it a wake, okay? How about that? And third, I need more practice in front of the camera, so indulge me on this one, okay? Anyway, before we get started, if you could do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's get started. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it was a book that was written by Robert Kiyoaski a few years ago. It spawned another book called Cash Quadrant, and that spawned a series of expensive financial seminars, and that spawned a series of teaching classes that eventually spawned a board game. So you might be thinking, wow, with all that content, all that things that are being created, there must be something unbelievably deep and insightful in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. No, there's not. In my opinion, Rich Dad, Poor Dad and Robert Kiyoaski are the most overhyped, overrated financial analyst, financial guru, financial tome that's been written in my era. Now, why do I say that? Well, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was a book written in parable form, sort of like Aesop's fables, if you're not familiar with that, the fable of the ant and the grasshopper, to simplify things. There was a rich dad who did everything right in terms of personal finance, and a poor dad who did everything wrong in terms of personal finance. So why do I say that Rich Dad, Poor Dad is completely overrated? Well, there are two reasons. One is that there were two premises in the book. The first is fine, but blindingly obvious. And the second is just flat out wrong. So let's start with the first one because that leads into the second one. So what the rich dad did was he bought income producing assets, and that was Robert Kiyosaki's big push for everyone. Now, what's wrong with that? Well, nothing, except that it's completely obvious. I don't think anyone thinks that they're going to get rich by buying shoes or purses or cars. That's not the way that it works. Of course, you're better off buying stocks or bonds or real estate, which are the income producing assets that Kiyoaski pushes. I do that. But that's not an actionable item. It's just too simple. In terms of stocks, which stocks should I buy? American stocks, international stocks, growth stocks, value stocks. What industry? Oil, technology, finance? Should I buy dividend producing stocks, high dividend stocks? How long should I hold them? When should I buy? How much should I put in at a time? When should I sell? Ever? None of those questions are answered in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that's the problem. The same with real estate. Should I buy commercial? Should I buy warehouses? Should I buy office buildings? Or should I buy residential? Should I buy single family homes? Or should I buy apartments? What should I do with them? Should I buy them and fix them and sell them? Should I rent them? When should I sell them? How much should I charge for rent? How should I finance them? Again, none of that is answered in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that's the problem. How about bonds? No, it's the same issue. Should I buy government bonds? Should I buy federal government bonds? Should I buy municipal bonds from the state or the county? Should I buy long-term, 30-year? Should I buy medium-term, 10-year? Should I buy short-term, 2-year? Should I buy bonds that pay interest every month, or that I buy at a discount and then they go up in value as I hold them? Rich Dad, Poor Dad doesn't answer any of that. So what am I supposed to buy besides these generic income-producing assets? No one knows. Rich Dad, Poor Dad doesn't tell you, so it's not an actionable item. It's not something you can act on. It's not practical advice. And that leads me to the second premise of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is that your home, your house, is not an asset. This is just wrong. It absolutely is an asset. It typically will go up in value, but at least it will not go down in value. The reason Kiyoaski says this is because your house doesn't pay you income. At least that's what he believes, but it can. You can rent it out. You can borrow against it and take the money out tax-free. You can get a reverse mortgage and then keep the house until you die. Or you can rent out rooms in the house and get paid that way. There are plenty of ways that your house can pay you back. And that's just the literal meaning of paying you back. Let's look at the more general, figurative way. Regardless of where you live, you're going to need a place to live, an apartment or house. You're not going to get a tent on the side of the freeway and live free there. That's not going to happen. So either you're going to pay rent or you're going to pay a mortgage. If you pay rent, you're going to be paying someone else and making them wealthy. It's not going to go to your net worth. You're not going to be building up any equity. It's just going to be lost money every single month. Now, some people might say, well, okay, but it costs so much to buy in the city I'm in. True in the Bay Area, San Francisco, Hawaii. But the other side of that is it costs a lot to rent there as well. So how much money are you really going to be saving if your rent is $5,000 a month, $7,500 a month, or whatever it happens to be in those expensive cities? But if you buy every month, part of your mortgage is interest. That is tax deductible. Also, part of your mortgage is principal reduction. That goes to increase your net worth, because even if the property doesn't go down in value, it's probably going to stay the same, at least over the long term. But as you pay your mortgage month after month after month, the balance on your mortgage goes down, so the difference between what your house is worth and what you owe increases. So your net worth goes up. So in that way, your house is paying you back. Then at the end of your life, you can decide what you want to do with your house. Do you want to refinance it and take the money out? Do you want a reverse mortgage? Do you want to sell it and then you've got so much cash that you can afford to live rent-free, or to trade down to a smaller house that costs less, that you pay cash for, and you still got cash left over? So the thought that your house is not an asset is just completely wrong. It's an absolute fallacy. And for those two reasons, I completely disagree with Rich Dad Poor Dad. The one piece of advice he gives you is completely oversimplified. It's true, but there's nothing you can do with it. And any financial advisor who's graduated from college and been on the job one day will tell you exactly the same thing. Buy assets that give you cash, either dividends or interest or rent. That's obvious. And his second position, that your house is not an asset, is just wrong. It's absolutely an asset if you buy it and if you own it. Now, if you enjoyed today's video, I'd ask you to subscribe and hit the like button, and then I'll see you next time. Thanks for being here.